And today I want to emphasize the heart in our title, because we will talk about the perfect match and the shared passion for cars and watches. Joining me in the studio today are Thomas Bachmann and Joram Scher.
This car is the most honest car you ever see.
It's been a dream ever since I've had it.
The first time I heard that engine screaming, I thought, I gotta have one of those.
For me, the cars have personality.
What's great about a BMW Classic is the community that surrounds it.
When you listen to that, that's why we're here.
My guests today are absolute experts in vintage watches and enthusiastic fans of the BMW Z1 and, of course, the Z8. They both drive Minis and have competed in the Munich Gentleman Drivers Races. With them, I want to discuss what connects and distinguishes the enthusiasm for cars and watches, and how original does a vintage watch or a classic car need to be to deliver full value and maximum enjoyment. So with no further ado, I would like to welcome Thomas Bachmann. Hi, Thomas.
Thank you for having us today.
Absolutely. Hi, Joram.
It's so great that you invited us. I'm also happy to join.
The pleasure is mine because I really look forward to this episode because we will touch all things automotive, definitely, but with a different angle. Because as I said in my introduction, you guys are heavily into watches. You make your love for watches a profession. But also with watches, as we know, sometimes, or very often actually, comes the high interest for cars. Thomas, I know for a fact that you grew up in a very automotive-driven city.
Yes, that's true. I was born in Ludwigsburg and raised in Bietigheim-Bissingen, so Porsches and, of course, Mercedes were all around me. But the 70s models, turbos, became so famous at the time, and they attract me till today.
That's for sure. I mean, the constant pressure of Porsches around you, that's the thing that really stuck into one's mind, I would say.
Definitely.
And Joram, how about you? So what's your relation to cars if it's not watches?
I love cars, and from the lack of money when I was 18, I dreamt of Porsche, but I could only afford Fiat. So I had an Uno Turbo, which I really loved, before I changed to Volkswagen Golf. I'm Generation Golf. And it always stopped me from having actually what I wanted, a Lancia Delta Integrale or Fiat Spider Volumix. That was what I had in mind, but there was no way for me to reach that.
I mean, we all have this kind of dream cars. Yeah, of course. I mean, that has changed now because you both, and this is no secret, are very successful in what you're doing. But Joram, for you, would you have considered being what you do today 20 years or 30 years ago?
Actually, I just told Thomas today that when I was in my younger age, between 18 and 25, I was not fancying watches. I saw the Swatch thing going on. I had, of course, some Swatches, but not collectibles. And I was not so focused into wristwatches. I was more into photography and old Nikon cameras. There was a fascination for mechanic cameras, but the watch came later, actually, with meeting Thomas Bachmann.
So, Thomas, that also needs a little introduction of how you went into the world of watches, besides being highly influenced by our friends in Stuttgart and the surroundings.
I think I just wanted to become successful and buy me a Porsche. No, at the time...
Don't say that too loud, because otherwise Porsche might ask for royalties. So I would be very careful with that.
No. At the age of 15, I got a book in my hands with watches, and they attracted me so much about the history and the mechanics behind that and the companies. So I went a little further and started a apprenticeship at Huber, which was a big retailer at the time in Munich. So they had their own watchmaker area, and I learned a lot. And for me, the combination between beauty and precision, something you can touch, feel, and wear. And it has all these collectible knickknacks. So 2 years they produced it with this dial, and 5 years later only with that chronograph hand. These things attracted me quite a lot. So things get started, and the Watchmania came in the 90s all over Europe. And a young man was able to make some serious money with these things. And this was the basic for opening a shop in the inner city of Munich.
And this seems to be work out very well. Since 27 years, you do this together. And I mean, doing this together, it's like a marriage in a sense. So, because I think you see yourselves more often than your private partners, I would assume.
We also did our vacations together, so we were hanging out for at least 20 years, day and night.
But most important, I think, is the same guidelines. We are both into vintage watches as well. So we are not only do contemporary, we love things from the 60s and 70s and are fascinated by the looks and styles and the touch and feel.
Mm-hmm. And this is something you have to have inside you to estimate the beauty of a wristwatch when it comes along, when you say, oh, wow, I haven't seen that one before, but it's really nice, even though it's not from such a big brand. It's just so sexy, and I love the 60s design. I just recently had a lip, which most people won't know as a brand, in my hand, and it's just a wonderful late 60s object.
Mega.
The nice part about our business is that we can do the decision what we buy by ourselves. So we will not be delivered any things from any brands.
There's always the decision, is this watch worth being a Bachmann and Scher watch?
Okay.
And if it doesn't qualify in its value or in its quality, and you can't help, then we won't take it. If you find something which has box and papers, is unpolished, and is just in its best condition, that makes us so happy. So if you have something in your hand, you get heartbeat and you get nervous because it's so rare to see something like that. And this energy which comes out of the process, this drives us.
I think it's a little bit the same in cars. It's all about the aesthetics in the first view, because that's the first point of contact. I would say the majority of car enthusiasts, they look rather into the lines of a car than looking at the engine, drivetrain and things like this. And I assume that's a similarity in watches as well. First of all, I look at the watch. How does it suit me? And I mean, a friend of mine from Zurich, a watchmaker, he always said the watch is, for us, the closest thing we wear to a heart than a necklace. But what do you think is this fascination for cars and watches? They go sometimes very well hand in hand. Maybe I address it to you, Thomas. What would you say is that magic?
If you sit in a car, or if you sit in a very beautiful car you always admired or like, and you put your hands on the steering wheel and you look on your wrist, you know exactly why you want to have a matching watch. Mm-hmm. So most of the people love to play. And most of the people who are able to buy a car or a watch, and to be honest, it doesn't have to be so expensive. I mean, there are beautiful watches for 500 or 800 euros, and there are beautiful cars for 8,000 to 6,000 euros. So it's not only the money, it's more that you're looking for something particular in owning something, taking care of, and have this 5-minute vacation in your car while slamming the gas or parking it, and you have this well done feeling. And I think this is one of the aspects you can have with a watch and with a car as well.
You can't bring your car to the party, but you can bring your watch. And it's not about showing off. I think the nicest compliment is not how expensive a watch is, or people know sometimes how expensive watches are, but I love it when they say, oh, your watch is so beautiful. It's the same thing you hear when you drive an old vintage car and people admire your car. They don't envy you, they admire your car. And this is the emotion we love about this.
I still find it fascinating because in the end, let's face it, a car has one obligation to bring me from point A to B. I mean, there's no discussion around it. A watch has the purpose to show me the time and date, or in best case, also the day. So why did watches and cars turn from this practical use into something that we admire and adore, even though it is a mechanical piece?
It is a certain ground happiness that comes if you are surrounded by beautiful product. It could be the chair you're sitting in. If you sit in an old Eames chair, if you say, oh, this chair is just how it should be, and I feel so good about this, and it smells, and I touch it, And it's the same with watches and cars. And I would say cars have more emotional aspects than watches, of course. The bigger you sit in a room, there's more leather smell and the engine sound. A watch cannot beat this. It's not possible. But it's the little sister, and we're very happy to deal with that.
Both things are very close to our heart, that's for sure. But let's talk about car activities. Both of you, if I remember correctly, are members of the Munich Gentleman Drivers. For those who are not familiar with it, the Gentleman Drivers meet up 2 or 3 times a year, not exactly for racing, but for sportive driving. And it's a competition with winners in the end. All about high quality, mainly historic sports cars. And you, Joram and Thomas, are part of it, correct?
Thomas came up with, come on, we're buying now a race car. I said, what? He says, we buy a 993 RS from a customer and friend of ours. We're like, He said, it's only half the cost. I pay the other half, and it's a great car, and we can go with the Gentleman Drivers. They invited us so we could join. We knew some of those guys who were a customer of ours. And so we did, and it was so exciting. The problem arose when the car became so expensive over the years that Thomas and me started to drive more carefully because we were too careful and too shy to actually maybe to have an accident and destroy the value in the car.
Yeah.
And that's the bad thing about sharing a car, is that you actually don't want the other one to sit in the next round of possible driving for vintage cars around maybe 1 hour.
Yeah.
So I hated it to wait when Thomas was sitting in there. So I thought I need my own car.
Yeah.
And he had the same. He was always afraid that I would destroy anything. And
That's
vice
so
versa.
true.
Yeah. You really sound like a very, very odd couple, I have to say. I love that.
It's like Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau with us.
Yes.
I think I'm Jack Lemmon.
Without me, you never would have started to drive a race car.
I finally ended up with a 991 GT3. That was my last sportive car, and I could then alone go to the drivings. And I love to be on the racetrack. I went there with my son from his video games. He knew exactly how the track works, and he told me which gear in which curve. That was amazing, even though he didn't have a driving license then.
Okay.
But I stopped doing it right now. I'm not having an interesting car.
I'm sure we can find you a wonderful classic BMW that you will have a head turner on Munich roads, just as a try.
I must say, I was considering a Z1 for many years, and I drove it for half a week. I got it from a car dealer. He said, use this, it's a good investment, it's big fun if the doors are slipping below your seats and it looks cool. Yeah. And it was a big mistake not to have bought this one. And I still remember Bernhard's offer, which I did not take, which definitely was a mistake.
I love this car, actually.
Yeah, it's so cool. I mean, the concept of that car is amazing, and it drives very, very well.
Yes.
We did a Prelude tour, and there was also a couple of Z1s. And for me, it was always this amazing sliding doors. They always got me. And the fact that you can drive with them open in some countries, it's a very special roadster feeling. So the Z1 really was a game changer. And I remember that our neighbors back in Hamburg, when I was where I was growing up, they drove a BMW Z1 in fun yellow, fun gelb, a typical color of that era. So really, I loved it. Colorful. And let's not forget the interior with these crazy, funky, at that time, fashionable patterns on the seat. Which, if you look now, it looks a bit like, could you not clean it a little bit? Because it looks a bit odd. But at that time and that combination, they are absolute fantastic and cool.
I wanted to buy a Z8 and Thomas didn't allow it. He said, no, you're not buying this car. It's Bullock, so you buy a Porsche. I said, no, I really think this is one of the most beautiful modern cars. I love the design. I still love it.
He
that
regrets
was
it
another
since
mistake
years.
I made. I didn't buy it. And I wanted an Alpina then. And Thomas explained me exactly why I should not buy it. And I hate him for this.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas, unfortunately, everyone, Thomas has left the studio. I'm so sorry for this. No, joking apart. I mean, there's still time, Joram. You're still very young. No problem
Did you
at
see
all.
the prices for the Z8 recently?
Sell 2 watches more and everything has been done and
I
fine.
try my
It's
best.
about passion, not money, Joram. It's about passion.
Exactly. It's
Just do it.
A dear customer of ours just bought one, and I'm looking forward next summer to take it for one day. He promised me that I will drive out with him and have the car, so I might think it over. That would be a car I still fancy.
I love this clean design of the center console, that you have the dials all in the center. It's very organized. You can focus on driving. And the engine is also, again, another cool drive. So please consider it, either an Alpina or a regular one. I wouldn't go in for a red one because I think the blue tones are the better ones, in my opinion. If you find a green one, that would be also very good. But they are very rare. And maybe there's another common thing in cars. If you're searching for a car and you bought the car, then you start restoring it and it's finished, you most likely will not drive it because then your task has been done. Is there the same thing with watches?
At the end, we are all hunters and we want to hunt the perfect match for us. And if the perfect match is too perfect, and we have this several times in our company, customers buy a brand new watch from the 60s or 50s, and they're kind of unhappy because they don't want to use it because they see every scratch they made by themselves and they don't want to blame themselves for ruining that condition. And I think this is the funny thing about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different from cars with watches. Like, we love and estimate watches when all parts are original from the time. Mm-hmm. So when I sell a watch from 1963, so the pushers, the dial, the hands, the movement, the case, everything, the bracelet, should be, for perfect collectors, from the time of production.
Yeah.
Even if I change it, like, of course, there's some parts like the crown that needs to be changed. It needs to be the old one. Mm-hmm. Please correct me if I'm right. If I buy an old Porsche and I need some parts, I can get them today and buy service parts from Porsche, which would fit the car, and most collectors would be happy with this result. Service parts in old watches are not so much wanted. So people say, it's an exchange dial, exchange hand. That's not the original bracelet from the year 63. It's from 85. So in watches, we are much more focused on all parts original from the time, which is very difficult.
I have a slightly different point of view on that. Let's take the BMW 507 that has been owned by Elvis Presley, right? Mm-hmm. In one of our episodes, we featured Jackie Jouret, the fantastic journalist colleague. She discovered the car and also joined the journey of the car from its very poor state into its build-ship glory, as it is now, done by BMW Group Classic Restorations. And there it's like this. So the car went after Elvis bought it. It went to many different hands. And every hand did an upgrade. For example, one owner, radio DJ, he just added a Borgward drivetrain. So it was not original at all, but the original parts have been gone. So at BMW Classic, everything has been rebuilt. And I think it can be considered kind of original if, let's say, it's the best way of having a car restored if the original parts are not available. So I think that's okay if it's done by the builder of the car. And if you look at the Concours world, especially the Concorso de Ganze Villa d'Este, there you see that, of course, an original car is something that you strive for. I mean, we have a special award for a car that is the most original one or the most preserved one. And we have also an award, on the other hand, for a very sensible restoration. That means someone who really was very careful in keeping the original state of the car alive by adding new parts. As I said, best would be from the maker of the car of that time, as we've done for the 507, for example. But now coming to watches, do you think that every little wheel in a watch, that you can 100% say, okay, this little wheel hasn't been replaced for any reason because the wheel was broken or something like this, then you replace this little wheel, which you don't see, as well, right? And I think that's maybe also the same thing in a sense.
Thomas, maybe you want to answer this. I think we are more picky.
As long as the exchange parts look absolutely the same, or the way they were produced is the same, I think we totally agree and we are with it. But if you look at, let's say, 100 watches, and there are few which are totally original, never changed anything, never had a service, you will find out that, as a matter of fact, many watches, especially in the 70s and 80s, where all these quartz watches came out, were just put away. Nobody cared anymore for a mechanical watch. So people make kind of a conservation, which is fantastic for a collector or a buyer if they just put it in the drawer for, let's say, 30 years and then take it out. And if you then look at a watch which was serviced every 5 to 8 years, especially by Rolex, they really reduced the originality where we are looking at about 30 to 50%. And this is, of course, a lack which is for a collector or for a buyer absolutely not packable. You won't have that. It's just something you can really wear.
You actually like the person says, well, I have it in my drawer for 30 years. I want to sell it. I heard it's worth money now. And then there is the other customer who comes, I serviced my watch every 5 years. Here are all the letters from whatever brand it is. I changed everything. Everything is working perfectly. So this must be a very valuable watch. And the contrary is the true. So the guy who pulls out the once not working watch from the 1980s because he never serviced it, after 10 years, he just put it away. This is the good one. It's okay if you check out for hands or a bezel, which was exchanged. The bezel is the ring around the glass between the case and the glass. You get an old one from some spare part dealers who ask crazy prices, but you shouldn't make out of a watch which has actually everything renewed and make a so-called Frankenstein watch where you say, that's a bit heavy. We don't like that.
Yet again, I agree, but it's actually the same in the car world. Because if you have a car, this year in Pebble Beach, we saw a non-restored car winning, right? It was Fritzes Burkhardt's Bugatti Type 59. And there's the same deal. So people say, okay, why did this car win a concours of elegance? Because it's a race car. It's not particularly elegant in a sense. I find it highly elegant, but that's also, again, taste. But it's not restored. And there's a difference if you say you abandon something, you put it in a drawer or you put it in the garage and leave it like that and do nothing. No oil change, no taking care that the rubber is in place, cleaning from time to time, all these kind of things. That's abandoned. And that was often mistaken or misunderstood by preserved. Preserved means I'm the custodian of that car. I take really good care that the car never changes his original shapes or parts. I keep all the parts, visible or non-visible, as original as possible. But I also would like to drive the car, so I must do everything that applies to laws and make it road legal, and of course, safety and drivability.
Yes, we have those customers who are collectors who know about this, and they would send, let's take an example, a Rolex watch, and send it for service with an extra saying, please don't change hands and dials and pushers, and please concentrate on the revision and the service of the movement, and don't touch the visual key elements, which makes it so valuable. And Rolex understands it and would agree upon this, even though the dial had faded hour markers, the hands a little bit rusty. They then keep it. They understand that the collector just wants it. And for many years, Rolex would not support this, but this has changed.
But they have a different chapter now. It's not only revision. Now they do restorations. And these restorations, they do with a really great sense of precision and originality. So they really take care of now. But it costs just a fortune. It's easy to spend 20 or 30,000 euros on a restoration for a Rolex watch.
But another similarity.
Exactly.
If you look at these restored cars, you have the same deal, because find a restorer that really knows his ABCs, right? So you bring it to BMW Classic because you wanted to have, like it was built and have left the BMW factory in 1957 or whatever it is, yeah? So, and then we're coming to the part Joram mentioned. Of course, there needs to be part exchanges that they work, but they will be built in the same precision, the same way it has been done. And if BMW Classic in a rare case cannot do it, they find ways of producing it like everyone else does. Just recently, when I visited BMW Classic, they were one of the 7 Series designed by Karl Lagerfeld. So he made one for his own, which was a long wheelbase, but he designed also a small series for an Italian hotel group, I think it was. And one lucky owner bought one of these cars, and the amount of level they put into putting this car into his really back to his condition and glory, it was amazing. From the stitching, the seats has a different pattern, all these kind of things. And of course, this costs a lot of money, right?
That's fair enough, but you cannot wear a watch 60 years without service and still expect the watch to be working correctly. It's not possible.
Yeah. So we agree that we should perhaps use what we love and collect beautiful memories and experiences with it, better than hiding it in a drawer or in a safe. But let's talk about a very special watch brand that has such a close connection to the automotive world, Heuer. Why is Heuer so connected to that theme?
Because Heuer is the master chronograph maker. You know, it's a stopwatch. You can measure the time for at least 3 hours till 12 hours. And it's a watch which was usually only used for car races or in techniques. And to put a wristwatch together with, let's say, 300 to 400 parts, that's approximately the quantity you need to make a chronograph. Heuer did a great job in the early 60s, and they started in the 30s already. And Mr. Heuer was one of these guys who really was so passionate about this race driving society, which were growing up at the 60s. If you own a Heuer watch and you wear it, you just can feel the spirit.
Exactly. This Jack Heuer, he was so passionate about racing in Formula One. He was the first using his brand as a sticker on the driving suits, like the famous Heuer sticker. Everybody knows it and wants it on his suit. And that was because Jack was in the races and was friend with all the drivers and giving away all the watches for free to Niki Lauda, to Clay Regazzoni, you name it. And
come on, these guys were really heroes in the 60s.
No,
if you're a Formula One driver, you were really a hero. You had probably the most dangerous job in sport history.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
The combination with a hero's watch, I think this is really something else.
Right. And Jack Heuer, who was born into the watchmaking family, was a genius, and I mean still is. He's 93. I think until 6 years he was skiing every year, very competitive races. I met him several times and we have always good conversations, and also the story he tells about the way how the Monaco watches got for the movie shot of Le Mans to Steve McQueen, who actually was a guy wearing Rolexes. So it's really like also a very nice marketing story behind that, but that's all good. I mean, we were not there in the end. Maybe he loved the watches really, but it's right. Heuer watches are always so much connected to motorsport. You see a Heuer watch, a vintage one, on many wrists of car designers. So I think it's both the racing history and the car relation, and then the legacy of the aesthetics of creating a very balanced and functional watch. I mean, they were not that expensive at that time. That's right, correct?
No, they weren't. And it's super undervalued compared to a Rolex watch, we would say today.
I would say if you don't have the money for Rolex Daytona, and most people don't have, go for a Heuer Carrera. It's still money. It's not for free, but that's definitely the second best choice you can do. Looking for a cool vintage chronograph with 60s flair. Try to find one with a nice original black dial and the little T above 6 o'clock hour marker. And if this is a pristine watch, it's awesome.
I mean, that's a very good advice. Something that you might know and have heard is a little element of our podcast called the pit stop. So the pit stop is a short series of questions, and I would like a very quick answer from both of you, because time is of the essence. And to make it in order, Joram, you start, and then Thomas, you just fire directly after. Then let's try it. Manual or automatic? Joram.
Manual.
Thomas.
Automatic.
Metal bracelet or leather bracelet?
Good question. In winter, steel bracelet. In summer, leather.
Doesn't work like
or the
this.
other way around. No, the other way around. Okay, I go for steel bracelet.
Thomas?
Steel bracelet.
Watch on the right or on the left wrist?
Right wrist, always, my whole life.
Yes. Thomas?
Right wrist. I always wear them on the right side.
Sell or keep Joram?
Keep.
Keep.
Thank you very much. That's it. So, Thomas, you went for automatic.
Yes, it's like driving a 6 or 8 cylinder car. I rather go for 8 cylinder because it's the better engine. No, in watches, the invention to build this little part which makes the watch automatic is such a great thing to me. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoy it, and I can wind it up anytime if I want. But the idea that the watch is working with or for me gives me just satisfaction. I like it.
And Thomas, if you apply this, that's very unfair, but I assume you don't apply this to cars.
No, definitely not. So I'm a shifter. I'm not an automatic guy. Mm-hmm. But as I'm getting older, I like the new automatics as well because they are
like
so fast
and
the pedals, and they are so speedy. It's amazing.
Cool. And Joram, for you, you stick to your manual, or in daily drive or in drive, you would like to have an automatic?
I must say I enjoy my electric Mini in the Munich city. You're kind of slower and less aggressive than with an engine. I like this in the city. I'm driving Mini for many years. This is my first electric. Yeah. First, Thomas laughed at me when I decided for Mini. Now he has one in his family too, and he told me he loves it too.
I do.
But he has not an electric, but I still enjoy this car. Yeah. I have a solar roof, which makes it easier for me to recharge it, and I like that.
A Mini is always a good decision and great driving fun. So tell me, what kind of watch would you recommend for a Mini? Not a certain model or brand, but maybe a style or era.
I still go for mechanical, manual wind Speedmaster Omega.
Not a specific brand. Try to avoid it.
Mini drivers are design freaks. They like it. They like it beautiful. Yeah. They like to sit in, and they pay so much more for sitting in a really nice car. So the watch should be having the same concept.
And could it be steel? Would you make that as a steel, or like with carbon?
No.
Or
Mini driver would only go for steel. You wouldn't sit with a gold watch.
Yeah, true.
Maybe a DLC coated one. Not just a steel watch, like a black watch.
So DLC
coated
is
things.
like this diamond-like carbon where they made steel looking black, right?
Yeah, even a ceramic case would fit in from one brand I won't mention. Yeah. But I like the material, which doesn't get scratches. That's nice to have something in ceramics.
So it must be a sporty one, definitely. Like a quirky, sporty one with a design element that you can wear also. You can drive with your Mini into the local gastropub and wear this watch, but you can also drive to the opera and wear this watch as well, in a sense, as a Mini owner.
And still the watch shouldn't be exorbitantly expensive. Mm-hmm. I think it should be somehow below 10K euros.
Cool. Thomas, what would you say for a Mini?
For Mini, DLC watch, which gives you all the great features. Then the very, very expensive ones. It's an automatic. It has a black dial to me and probably a rubber strap for some reason, which makes it very, not only handsome, very easy to use it in every location and situation. And me, myself, I had a 10-hour ride with my Mini. I have a Cooper Works. And for me, it was just super fun. I loved it.
Yeah. And the watch should be also fun as is driving the Mini. Yeah,
exactly.
I like that.
And don't care, just use it and have fun with it.
Like there's no tomorrow.
hopefully there is tomorrow.
JP, I need your help. What's the name of the new BMW concept car, which is now coming out, which is so beautiful in its line?
The D or the Neue Klasse?
I think it's the D. Is it a convertible?
Oh, no, Skytop. Sorry.
The Skytop.
Skytop. This concept was presented at the Concorso da Ganza Dell'Este this year. And for me, this is actually one of the proper successor of the 507 in a sense. Open roadster, 2 seats, really like focus on driving. And somehow it combines tradition and modernity in a very nice way. And the fun fact about this, it took only 15 months from the concept to be able for BMW to build the car. This is an amazingly short time. And I think that's something incredible. So Skytop for me is one of the automotive highlights of 2024.
I saw it last week, first time on a photograph.
Yes.
A customer of mine is getting one of those very few pieces.
The 50, I think.
Exactly, and 5 are supposed to be kept by BMW and the company. So he's getting one of the 45, and he's very proud about it. He has a nice car collection. And that was the car I have in mind now. And the watch I would wear in this car, because I will drive this car definitely next year. One day. And I have a brand in my head which has a tonneau-shaped Formula 1 style case. It's a very expensive brand, which is maybe too expensive.
Let me guess. I think it's my dear friend Richard Mille.
It's Richard Mille, and I would wear definitely a Richard Mille in this car. Maybe a titanium. That would be, for me, a fitting combination.
Also, I agree for Skytop. I think that would be also a very good choice going for an RM. And, you know, if there was only one thing that you can own, is it rather a watch or a car? Silence.
I would rather own a car with a watch inside.
Compromise.
So clever, my partner. I can only agree.
You know why you choose him.
It has to be a car. The aspect of transport beats the comfort of having jewelry on your wrist, because today we all have a cell phone with the time on. So what you do is showing your preference for design and beauty on your wrist.
And this tough question was the last question for our recording today. Thank you very much for joining us. And everyone who is enthusiastic about watches should check the Instagram account of Bachmann Scher. So it's very simple. It's written together, Bachmann Scher, and you find them on Instagram.
Thank you, JP, for having us here. It was a great time. We enjoyed it quite a lot.
That means a lot. Thank you very much. And thank you, Joram, also for joining.
This was fun, and you asked intelligent questions. It was easy to keep the whole thing going. It's good to have a good question.
So thank you very much, everyone, joining our little session about watches. And we spent some time together with Tom and Bachmann and Joram Scher. So thank you very much. And if you liked what you've heard, please leave us some comments. Please leave us some stars and ratings in a positive way. Follow us, subscribe us on the distribution channel of your choice for this podcast. And this podcast would not be happening without a great team behind it. And I would like to thank Friederike von Königswald, who is our editor, then Alex and Marcus from Scenario Studio, and of course, Robin Seiser from Shot One, who is our producer. And of course, it would be nothing without our people listening in and with our guests. So thank you very much, Thomas and Joram. Hope to see you soon, and we have a good time together. Thank you very much.
All the best.